Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking to Chris Willis. Chris, it's great to connect with you. You're the Chief Marketing Officer responsible for all aspects of the company's marketing strategies, but also a specialist in content governance, AI, and pipeline management. And we were talking a little bit before we hopped online. Talk a little bit about what you're doing in the world of AI and content governance and what that means to those who don't know.
Sure. So the easiest way to think about this, turn down my volume so I can hear me. Oh, live. Awesome. Anyway, the easiest way to think about this is you understand spell check. So spell check goes through and it monitors everything that you do, provides you with guidance around spelling. Am I struggling? Am I back?
No, now you're good. Now you're good. Yeah.
Provides you with guidance on spelling and grammar. We take that further. So spelling and grammar, great. But businesses care about things like tone of voice, style guidelines, clarity, consistency, character of their content, inclusiveness of their content, accessibility around their content. And they do that in very bespoke ways. Everybody does this differently and they're doing it at scale. So our software helps companies, creators in companies, align the way that they communicate around clarity, consistency, character. But here's the thing. So product like ours, everybody might not use it. So the next thing is I've got some content that is measurably good. I have a lot of content that is at best unknown. So the next thing is the idea of quality gates. So think TSA checkpoint for content. So everything goes through, and if it's aligned with the business, it shoots right out the other side and goes and gets on its flight. If it has a water bottle in it, it's off brand, off language, off style, gets shot off to the other side and is updated to sound like the rest of the company. So everything is ready for publication. But then the last part is it actually working? Is my style guideline set what I need it to be for the audiences that I'm communicating with? So the ability to connect with post-publication analytics to show that this is how I've built it. So I've increased the clarity, I've added a fun tone of voice, all these different components of the way that I communicate. How's it doing in the world?
Yeah.
And then can I A/B test to make it do better? So think in terms of a web landing page. How am I converting? Could I convert better if I increase the clarity, remove buzzwords, make this more readable? And so I get more business value out of every piece of content. That at the base is what we do, but that also at the base is how one would run a governance program inside a business, with or without software.
I love that. Thanks for sharing and breaking that down. Let's talk about communication and what communication sounds like and looks like today, right? Whether you're marketing internally or to external customers, trends from what I am doing my research on, trends right now are people don't necessarily read, they skim. People don't necessarily watch videos as much as they listen to the videos as much as they watch them with the captions. And, so how do you, and people's attention span is less than a goldfish, less than 7 seconds. And so we're in this kind of like, from a marketing perspective, how do we market internally and externally to not only get, but also keep people's attention? And so back into that for me, from your perspective, Chris, when it comes to communication and content.
Yeah, every word counts. So it's moving beyond just the headline, and I get 5 words in a headline to be most impactful. Scannability, that's where you started. The ability to look at this quickly, because I'm not gonna read it. I'm gonna look at it really quickly. Is this a scannable piece of content, and how would you know that? How would you be able to govern the creation of content that is scannable? How do you manage clarity, for instance? So I'm writing. The average American, and I'm not sure this is a positive stat, but the average American reads an 8th grade reading level. And most of the people that are creating content inside an enterprise, and especially a technical enterprise, are writing at a 10th or 12th grade reading level or higher. How do you align that so that people can actually consume the content that you're creating? And it's a thing that most of us don't think about. I'm just putting things down on a page and I'm trying to communicate. I think that you're going to get it because I want so badly for you to get it, but I'm not aligned with you. I'm aligned with my strategy, but I'm not aligned with my audience. And that's a thing that businesses are starting to wake up to, is that strategy aligned content creation means I guessed, right? It's my job as a marketing person to have an idea of the personas that I'm communicating with and how they want to hear me. But at the end of the day, let's call it what it is. I'm guessing that this is going to work.
Yeah.
And we need to get into a space where that guess starts to go away and give way to actual audience alignment. Get that feedback that says, the way that you're writing this is hard to understand. I don't get it, and I'm not absorbing it. You're not getting the business impact of what you're reading. And it's not just web content. It's everything. It's emails. It's white papers. It's everything that you publish. Everything that you create has a desired outcome.
Yeah.
Are you getting the desired outcome out of your content?
It's interesting. I think it's really important to do on a quarterly basis, for sure, a yearly basis, sometimes even a monthly basis, really an audit of your impact and everything that you're doing. I just finished one as I'm kind of cleaning up the year, looking at everything, my website, marketing, and saying, okay, what has the strongest impact? And then what do I need to get rid of that isn't having an impact? And what do I need to evolve that's almost making an impact? and I just want to dive into, because it's really, I find myself always paying attention to what the audience wants, the prospects and the people who look at my things and feedback I get. And so talk a little bit about how to listen to the audience, right? Listen to that prospect audience, the client audience, because when we talk about attention and marketing and making every word count, I love everything you're saying. It's also about not only getting new, but retaining. That's internal and external. So can you kind of just chat about that for a minute?
Sure. I mean, if you think about when you leave, I've already used an airport analogy. Let's use another one. As you're walking out of the airport, there's that happy face, sad face. And you walk by and you hit it, and you obviously pick up COVID and go home. But short of that, you're providing some level of feedback on your experience. And we don't do that with the content that we put out into the world. We don't ask for feedback. We just do it. And at an enterprise level, the volume of content that's created is astronomical. And there's a bunch of problems that go along with that. Most businesses don't understand the value of content because they don't have a line item for content unless they're outsourcing the whole thing to agencies. It's just a thing that we do. It's a thing that you do when you go to work. I do it. Everybody does it. We're creating content and we're throwing it out in the world. So we have this never-ending appetite for new content. You're taking it in the direction that we prescribe, which is, hey, slow down.
Yeah.
Let's look at this bucket of content that you've created over the last 12 months and identify what's working. And how do we do that? For Google Analytics, let's look at time on page. Let's talk digital content first because it's the easiest. Time on page, bounce rates. We can move into, assuming we've connected to some goals, we can look at conversions and how is this content actually doing what I expect it to do? But the question then comes like, okay, so if it's not, why? Because I'm not getting feedback. I'm not getting anything from my audience. Yeah. And that's where we think that if you can look at how you've created the content, if you have that governance model up front to say, look, we're going to write let's be crazy. We know that the average is an 8th grade, but we're going to write for a 9th grade audience. That's my assumption. And I do that. And I see in my analytics that it's not resonating. It's not having the business result that I expect. Should I be A/B testing my clarity level? So let's dial half my content down to an 8th grade reading level and see, because they're not telling me, let's see what they do with it. Am I getting a better business result as a result of changing the clarity? If I change the way that I communicate, the tone of voice. Some companies like MailChimp has a fantastic tone of voice that they use in the marketplace. What I know about companies that have that fun, quirky voice in the marketplace is that if they use that, for instance, in their support organization, their support customers hate that. Hate it. I know because I did it here. We had a great, fun, light tone of voice. I put it over. I governed the content that we were creating out of a support group, and it failed miserably. Nobody wants to have fun, quirky interactions with support. So you use that information and you change and evolve your tone to create something that resonates, and you get those better business results. In case of support, for instance, less calls into your support line because you're solving more problems in writing. And this iterative process Like right now, it's kind of flying blind because we don't have enough analytics out there in the world to be able to see what happens post-production and tie that back to creation. But as more products come out in the marketplace, you're getting this set of data that didn't exist before that helps you to find the ability to experiment. And this experimentation lab of content takes this asset that you have, which in a lot of businesses is in the millions and millions of dollars worth of content that you've created, and makes it more usable, more actionable, and more valuable to the business. You talked about how you do this, on a semi-regular basis. Most businesses that I talk to have, in the area of $500 million to $1 billion worth of content that they own right now, sitting in repositories in their business, and they're, from a maintenance standpoint, they're maintaining less than 10% of it.
Yeah, that's great.
It's just throwing things away.
Yeah,
tossing it.
No, I love it. I mean, everything you're talking about is things that people need to be thinking more about. And so you do things more on an enterprise level, but how can a non-enterprise company kind of do everything you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a sense of governance, like there's a good and there's a bad, but making that more active. What is the definition of good? How do you define good content? How do you measure that? So going through the components of the way that you communicate, documenting that, and then making that happen inside the business. It doesn't need to be automated. It doesn't need to use AI on a small scale. It just needs to happen. You need to have that idea of what you're trying to create, and then make sure that everybody is creating on that. Back in the old days, they just called it the style guide, and you handed it out on the first day of a writer's new job. Here you go. Here's the style guide. Boom, start using it. And now businesses still have that, but nobody opens it anymore.
Yeah.
And we don't think that way because we're hiring people so quickly, and they come in and we're trying to onboard them, make them productive from day one. Just start writing. And now you've got people that are seasoned content creators sitting next to somebody that just came out of college that is in their spare time is writing a blog about cats, and that cat voice is coming into your enterprise content. Like that's the first thing, is just understanding what you want and how you want to communicate. And then looking at, as you move through the process, building a definition of good. Like, as I review this content, what am I looking for that tells me objectively that this is what we need? Yeah. So can I take these components that I've created, these guidelines for my content, and start to put a weight on them, and then find them in a document? And objectively, this is a good document, because now I'm starting to remove the need for long-term editorial. My content my content engine is moving faster, and I'm putting more out to publication. Once it's out in publication, then using your analytics and reaching out to your audience and polling that audience. It would be great if everybody had natural language processing and AI to be able to get those results back from their audience. But the easiest way is to send a survey monkey. Hey, what do you think of the content we're creating? Let's talk about these several components of content and get your feedback. And then, again, A/B test. Like, my audience told me they would like me to be more conversational. Does that matter? Test it. Test it and see if more conversational results in more of whatever you're trying to get. Is it leads? Is it customer use of product? Is it NPS score? What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
And does that change actually get you there?
Yeah.
And we can all do that.
I love it. I think enough companies aren't beta testing right now. Chris, quick speed round for you. You ready?
Sure.
All right. Book that's had the biggest impact on you.
There was a book many years ago by a guy that owned a basketball team, and I'll remember his name long after this. But it was on marketing, and the idea behind it was he bought a basketball team, and they were losing all of their season ticket holders, and he believed that if he put a rubber chicken in a FedEx box and sent it out, he would see his conversion rate go up on season tickets. And as the book goes, it did work, and that's how I launched my marketing career.
I love it. Figure out what that book is, and send me the name. I want to read it.
John Spolstra is the guy.
What's his name?
My Rolodex turned slowly. John Spolstra. I believe he owned the Seattle Supersonics, maybe, or some other trash team. Sorry if you live in Seattle.
All right. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
If it feels good, don't say it.
All right. And finish this sentence. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody can do to pay attention and listen to what their audience is saying is
actually asking the question.
Yeah. Amen. Tell everybody who your ideal clients are and how they can connect with you, Chris.
So we sell primarily to big tech, financial services, and pharmaceutical companies, as well as large manufacturing throughout Europe. And you can find me on LinkedIn at CP Willis or at our website at acrolinx.com.
I love it. Well, I appreciate, Chris, you being on the show. I'm a business coach, and I work with solopreneurs to Fortune companies and C-levels execs and owners and managers and salespeople. And I love this podcast because I work with successful people who are stuck. I get them unstuck. And I get to have guests like you on that can shed some wisdom to continually get people unstuck. And you said a lot of great things today that companies need to think about more, in my opinion, or start thinking about it if they're not, and implementing a lot of the things that you talked about. But one of the things I just want to extract that you said that resonated with me is every word counts. And I think a lot of what you talked about today can kind of back into that, making every word count and beta testing, how you're asking the question, the words that you're using, everything that you're doing and how you're communicating and what your content is. Think community. If Chris can help you, please reach out to him. Chris, give him your contact information one more time.
I'm at LinkedIn at CP Willis, and I am at acrolinx.com.
All right. And so think community, if Chris can help you, please reach out. And if I can help you, please reach out to johndwoskin.com. Chris, this was great. I appreciate all your insights. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, everybody.